Hey guys, before we start the show here, just a quick note. This comic does contain several depictions of animal abuse, and no, I'm not talking about the werewolves. Viewer discretion is advised.
Starting in 2005, Zenescope Entertainment has come to be known for their Grimm's Fairy Tale line of comics set in a multiverse where fairy tale characters are real. And all of those fairy tale characters are sexy women.
Yes, we're dealing with more cheesecake art again, like the kind of art we've dealt with in the executive assistant titles from Mastadon Entertainment. This time, the cheesecake tends to involve a lot of fairy tale characters like Red Riding Hood, Snow White, as well as folkloric figures like Robin Hood, vampires, and werewolves.
Apparently, they failed to realize that Alan Moore and Melinda Gebbie were already doing this, and unlike Zenescope, were actually willing to go full porn.
Anyway, the fairy tales are spread through 4 different worlds, that of Wonderland, Oz, Neverland, and Mist, that all exist independently and occasionally crossing over with each other. Then in 2013, Zenescope set out an event called Unleashed, which would see the various fairy tale characters having to cross over to Earth thanks to various monsters being released by an individual known as the Being.
To lead into this event, 5 prequel miniseries were launched. Today we're covering one of them that's about werewolves. This is Grimm Fairy Tales Unleashed Werewolves-The Hunger.
A man sits drunkenly alone in a cabin as his daughter Charlotte went off with her friends. His melancholic peace is suddenly shattered as a hunter named Roman Asher and a large wolf-like creature come crashing through the window. The creature, obviously a werewolf, storms off into the night as Asher collapses unconscious. Meanwhile, in town, renowned veterinarian Rachel Campbell breaks some unfortunate news to an elderly couple about their dog. However, her 2 interns, Allison and Jeff, know the real truth. Dr. Campbell actually vivisected the poor pet.
Boo!
Asher comes to and wants to know about the werewolf he was chasing. In all likelihood, it's going off to the campground where Charlotte and her friends are engaging in some illicit activities and drug use. As the other couples begin to get a little bit more amorous, Charlotte turns down a similar offer from her boyfriend, David.
Look, I am all for getting consent in these types of scenarios here, but at the same time, what did Charlotte think was going to happen? Did she think she and her friends were going out into the woods to go fishing and tell campfire tales?
The group is attacked by the werewolf and quickly slaughtered. David does his best to fight the monster, but is quickly torn to shreds. Charlotte attempts to take cover, but gets bitten just as Asher and her father arrive. Asher only gets off a glancing shot to drive the creature away, but before anyone can deal with Charlotte, a group of Black Ops soldiers pops up, knocks the men out, and carries the young woman away. Asher prepares to continue the pursuit of his wolf, and pointing out that wolves are pack animals, so the main one is probably going to go after his new creation in Charlotte. As Charlotte's father begs for her return, Asher knows what he's probably going to have to do. After all, this happened to his little girl as well.
I'm sure the revelation that Asher's family was killed by werewolves comes as a major shock to you.
Back at Dr. Campbell's office, Jeff informs her that Allison is bugged out and quit, which is a shame because he only joined this position so he could try to get to sleep with her. However, this does mean that Jeff, though Dr. Campbell keeps getting his name wrong, is now the chief employee to assist Dr. Campbell with her new patient, Charlotte.
Wow, it's another amazing twist.
Asher tracks down the werewolf as it attacks a passing jogger. Unfortunately, the young woman gets bit, meaning that she will have to be put out of her future misery. Back at the veterinary clinic, Dr. Campbell explains to Jeff that various creatures like vampires, witches, zombies, and, yes, werewolves, have been crossing over to our world for some time now. To that end, the government has hired her to investigate these creatures and see how they operate so their best usage can be determined. To prove her point, Dr. Campbell focuses a lunar spectrogram on Charlotte to induce her first transformation into a wolf.
Thankfully, Charlotte's lupine self managed to discern the fact that she was wearing that hospital gown and managed to rip it in just the right places to prevent any nudity.
This winds up having a side effect, however, as Asher's wolf is able to sense Charlotte in the area and begins tracking her while attacking innocent bystanders along the way. The creature shrugs off any shots from Asher, who manages to follow it to the veterinary clinic. Asher follows the creature inside and begins tracking the bloodstains on the wall to the basement lab. He's a little too late as the wolf has already killed several guards and freed Charlotte. Jeff manages to pull Dr. Campbell to safety, which actually makes her remember to get his name right. Asher empties his gun into the wolf for little effect, causing him to have to take some alternate measures.
I know you're all expecting me to use the whole Wolfman's Got Nards clip from the movie Monster Squad. However, unfortunately, the distribution rights to that film are owned by Lionsgate, and I can't show that clip without risking a copyright strike, so... sorry.
Asher then pulls out a silver dagger and slits the werewolf's throat. Meanwhile, Charlotte goes after Dr. Campbell and Jeff, causing them to get trapped in a holding cell. Jeff manages to pull Dr. Campbell away to a door to avoid getting bitten from Charlotte, and she's now suddenly apologetic as she realizes the full gravity of her actions.
Fished in!
Dr. Campbell injects Jeff with a sedative and sticks his hand up to induce a bite from Charlotte. The next thing Asher sees is a chopper leaving with Dr. Campbell and her new werewolf experiment, Jeff, on board. This leaves Asher alone to deal with Charlotte, and though he empathizes with Charlotte and her father's situation, he knows what must be done and preps his daggers once more. Hours later, Asher breaks the news to Charlotte's father, returning a family necklace as proof.
And that concludes our look at Grimm's Fairy Tales Unleashed Werewolves-The Hunger. Hug. Anyway, how was it? Well, on the plus side, I do think there's some decent characterization in this. There's actually a nice bit of dark humor, like the idea that Dr. Campbell can't remember Jeff's name, and the fact that Jeff only signed up so he could try to get with one of the interns. You know, pretty decent. Not great, but a couple of little funny moments in there. And to be honest, the cheesecake art is pretty well measured in this. It's not too overt and in your face all the dang time. So, again, it's alright. If I had any problems with it, is that the story itself is just a little too cliche. It's just, again, wow, the werewolf hunter has a sworn oath of vengeance because the werewolves killed his family. What's that? The doctor that was vivisecting animals might be working with a secret government organization? Wow, yeah, that's surprising. What's that? The military wants to use the monsters for military stuff? Yeah, haven't seen that before. You get what I mean? And to be honest, I think this is actually a little too short. This is only 3 issues. I think this maybe should have been 4 or 5. Maybe then you could have given the characters a bit more of a backstory. I mean, Charlotte and her father don't really have much. It's just maybe the idea that Charlotte's mother has died, and again, because Charlotte's a teenager, they're grown apart because teenager. And that would maybe have a bit of an maybe then, what happens to her character would have a bit more of an impact. Again, they just kind of feel like fodder, and that's it. None of these characters are really that interesting. They're, like I said, decently portrayed, but just not interesting. They're very flat and uninspired. So, yeah, overall, I mean, unless you're really, and again, if you want the sexy pinup stuff, there's other stuff in Zonoscope to get that, so I don't think you really needed it here. So, I am going to give this Grimm Tales Unleashed Werewolves thing a D. Again, maybe only if you're kind of sort of interested in werewolves. There's decent werewolf action in it, but other than that, there's not that much. And with that, let's see what we're doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, remember you can help support the channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions. There you can request a tray to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. And as always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.